Hi, everyone. It's Harry here from Year 13, and I have Brad with me on behalf of Data 3. It's great to have you involved in Year 13 Expo this year, and welcome, Brad.
Thanks, Harry. Pleasure to be here, mate.
Absolutely. Okay, doke. So kicking off, if you give us a bit of background and detail around how you got to where you are today and the story between leaving school and starting at Data 3.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm an Adelaide born and bred guy. Grew up in Morphet Vale. Graduated at Wirranda High School down in Morphet Vale, and wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do with my career. Sort of going through year 10, year 11, I think I even got to that point and decided, do I want to be a carpenter or do I want to get into IT, or maybe I want to do outdoor education? So I decided to choose what I thought had the most money in it. What that did, however, lead me to was an IT traineeship within the South Australian government. And that really started my career, where I progressed through technical roles for about 8 or 9 years into then a sales role. And another 10 years down the track, I'm an account executive for Data 3, look after South Australian government and universities and the education sector. So a bit of a journey to get here, but a pretty broad range of IT that I've been experienced through the journey.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. And so that traineeship offered by the government, that, in your opinion, did it really help you, solidify your skills in the IT sector, but also kind of give you that access to learning whilst on the job?
Yeah, it certainly did. I think one of the hardest things for young people coming out of school is not just deciding what career you want to go to, but how you're going to get there. Lots of jobs, you need to have experience. So even in my earlier jobs, there was people that had done a 4-year degree in computer science. We're working at the same level.
Wow.
So job experience is really key, and it just depends what you want to do. The career path I'd chosen didn't necessarily require a university degree. So the traineeship was a way for me to still get on the job training. I did the Cert 4 in IT via TAFE, but I also got to be working in a government department supporting, that was the South Australian courts. So doing help desk work and fixing computers, and it was really good on the job experience, which helped me grow my career from there.
Fantastic. Okay, great. It seems like a great pathway for you to get into the industry and save that 4 years you could have otherwise been spent maybe in a tertiary degree. You were able to get on with it and kind of start applying the things you're learning through TAFE. That's great. Okay, so you've come a long way. Now you're 11 years in the industry. Is that correct?
Well, I'm 35 and I started working at 18. So
okay, right.
So some quick maths there.
That's 17.
17 years in IT. As I mentioned, I've been in sales for just over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And there was technical roles before that. So I've been working since I left school.
Brilliant.
In this industry.
Okay, so now let's thinking about what you do at the moment. So I know you're an account executive, look after the Department for Education. Can you give us a bit of just like a 101 of your day, like a day in the life of your role, but also maybe a bit of a rundown of what it was like when you first started working in your traineeship, when it was working for the South Australia courts, doing their IT services, fixing computers, just a bit of and we can kind of fill the pieces in between.
Sure. It was certainly, I actually did work experience in the same area as part of during school. So year 10, year 11, I was fortunate to do work experience in the same spot. So it gave me a bit of an idea what I would be doing. But going to an IT traineeship, asking lots and lots of questions, trying to listen a lot more than I talked, which was difficult for me. But it was very much a learn on the job kind of role. There's a lot of people where if you show that you're interested and show that you're keen to learn, they'll happily take you under their wing and help you develop. So that was certainly, I guess, being able to be put, instead of just being a trainee or just going to university, being within a team. You were a part of the team. You weren't just there to learn or sitting aside watching like you do with work experience. I had roles and responsibilities that I needed to make sure I was doing as part of projects. There was various rollouts of computers and different software that we were doing at the time that was critical for the day-to-day operations of the courts. So there was oftentimes, a couple of times I've been out fixing a computer in the middle of a courtroom that needed to be fixed, which was very scary at the time for an 18-year-old. You did get exposed to lots of different things. And that experience, that led me to, I worked in the Commonwealth Bank help desk as a part of EDS as well for a couple of years. And getting that job was just off the experience I had from before. And that's kind of how my career progressed. Worked at the University of Adelaide for 5 years in the IT department there. And I think that's one of the cool things about IT in a general sense is I started on the service desk. And then, 6 or 7 years down the track, I was rolling out software for entire student suites at the University of Adelaide. I was supporting the Vice Chancellor. There was lots of different things you can do, and you get to grow organically. And lots of different people start in the same spot, but they also end up in different areas. Right. Sales is a different career progression for myself. But there's people that I did a traineeship with that are still working at a really high level and technology still supporting and maintaining software and infrastructure. So it is a very diverse career path that you get to change and grow as you work as well, which is very exciting.
That sounds great. Yeah. Okay. And that's nice to know, because there's some other industries where you may start in a particular area and you hone your skills, but you only ever really stay in that position. You might obviously increase your salary earnings, or your responsibility, but at the end of the day, you're still that individual or still doing that role. But in the IT sector, it sounds like you start at the service desk entry level kind of area, and you just gradually grow up, because once your experience grows and your responsibility grows, therefore there's more roles available to you, and it's only inevitable that you'll continue to grow up in the ranks.
Absolutely. If you show that you're willing to learn, I mean, IT is it's growing so quickly, constantly. The technology you're learning, 2-3 years ago, is already it's changing as you go. So you have to be diverse. You have to, if you want to grow, you have to be able to adapt. So it does provide a very rich and diverse career path if you wanted to go down the IT track. Yeah. I mean, I guess compared to what I was doing when I was technical in a sales role, it's completely different. I've got the experience, and I've got the experience of how customers like to work with IT. Now I'm talking to them, trying to get them to work with Data3 as a partner. So you asked before about my day-to-day role compared to having to having a list of tickets to fix or looking after particular customers. My job now is to generate opportunity. So Data3 have a diverse range of software and infrastructure and IT services that we provide. It's my job to try and find the opportunities and get customers to want to work with us.
Great.
So you mentioned, day to day, it's not just, I don't have the bag of tricks and things that I want to try and sell. It's about building relationships, it's about how to communicate, it's about asking the right questions. We're dealing with people, Department for Education have got 200,000 plus students across the state, 2,500 employees. They've got a few things on the go. Yeah. So if their time is precious, so if we want to work with them, we need to find reasons to be valuable and want to help them drive some great outcomes for education and help them meet their goals. So it's a really diverse role that I get to work in. It is a high pressure but exciting job. And it's not just Department for Education, there's lots of different government departments and universities to get to work with as well. So you've got to be thinking on your feet a lot. You got to prepare properly. You need to be well educated about your customers and know how to look. So I suppose research them. So you're not walking in blind. It has been certainly an interesting and demanding job day to day, but really rewarding as well.
It seems it. So you kind of perform a role of a trusted advisor. So, the Department for Education rely on you to understand their problems and then deliver solutions that are, proactive without having to, I imagine, always be briefed. It's just kind of, you partner together, and it's a continual stream of optimization and alternate solutions to kind of varying problems.
Yeah, look, exactly. I'm by no means I like to say I'm not the smart guy in the room. I'm the one that brings in the smart people. So I'm the one talking to the businesses to work out what they're trying to do. And then we've got a range of experts and architects and other smarter techie people that know a lot more about the technology than I do, and I bring them into the conversation. So it is very, for me, it's more focused on what the business outcome, trying to understand what they're trying to achieve, and then I get the right people involved. Right. But trusted advisor can work too. Sure. Yeah,
it's a really good skill set to have. You've got the background in the technical side, but for those individuals out there that may not have found their particular niche, if they're not particularly tech, suited, or not particularly, suited to the back end side. There is this opportunity, which is, it's very common for individuals like yourself in a sales management, orchestrating point kind of position where you do, conduct and go, right, this is the solution. This is who I need to get to bring in the specialist to a kind of, solve the problem. And it is really, really, as you can probably attest, it's a really important position because you're the kind of translator, I imagine, for the business problem and the solution, and you kind of draw those two together. Yeah, it's an invaluable skill to have.
Exactly. Yeah, look, it's certainly having to being able to understand the technology certainly helps. So having a technical background can help in sales, because I know what I at least know what's going on in the conversation. But yeah, having to tie those two together is absolutely a key.
Brilliant. And what, both in your current role and the IT industry, what gives you satisfaction? Is it solving these complex problems, or is it working with really, intelligent and technical, team members, or is it, working for a huge department like the Department for Education South Australia? What is it that gives satisfaction in your role in the industry?
That's a great question. I mean, there is certainly in sales, it's a competitive industry too. So having that, putting the amount of time and effort to win a deal is certainly a very rewarding and satisfactory. I do love working in education. It's somewhere there's a bit more of a warm and fuzzy approach to it, because at the end of it, you've got students that are trying to learn. There's educators that are trying to provide the best outcomes for their students. So it's not just a business that's going to give a few more dollars back to the shareholders. There's a really invested outcome that you're helping to be part of. So that is very rewarding to have input into those sort of industries. And I've had experience in healthcare and local government as well in the past. But yeah, education always seems to draw me back. So that is very, very rewarding. Been able to give back in situations as well, where I've actually been able to go back to my old high school and helped with some solutions there, and talk to even some of my old teachers, which I thought was really cool. Good to see them, and even some of them remembered me for some good reasons too, which is cool. But no, it does have. I think it is a role that and the industry that rewards the hard work. So putting that time and effort and research into understanding what you're doing, and it is very rewarding at the end of the day if you get the good result and you get to grow your business as well as provide a good solution. And also, when I'm born and bred in Adelaide, it's really cool to see South Australia leading the world in certain areas, and if we can be part of that as well from an education perspective, that's exciting too.
Fantastic. Yeah, it is good to work for an industry or an area that provides common good. It's obviously it is important to provide services to those private organizations for their bottom line, but I can see the benefit and the kind of gratification that you get from working for the future of our country, but also the education possibilities for everyone in Adelaide and probably across the country. So knowing that this is what you love about the industry and the gratification you get from working with these particular departments, what personal attributes do you possess as a professional, but as a person as well, to be honest, but that allow you to kind of succeed in the industry and succeed in your role?
Yeah, look, communication's key. Being able to not only articulate what you're trying to achieve or ask the right questions, being able to listen to people. It's really, really easy to ask a question and then already be thinking about the next question you've got lined up. Being able to actually dig and understand what your customer or the person you're helping fix a problem for, understand what they're trying to do is really key. So having some charisma and being comfortable talking to people, it's definitely one thing in starting a career. You look at people high up in business, like a CEO or a CIO, and you think that they're, it's always, you're scared to talk to them. You're really nervous about it. And you work out over the years that they're just people too, trying to do their job and trying to get the best outcome possible. So not being afraid to talk to people at a high level, it's easy to say that. It's certainly something that takes a bit of time to grow. But being clear in your communication, I think being genuine and honest about what you're trying to do as well is really important. Especially in sales, there's a lot of people that have an approach where I feel like you just know that there's money at the end of what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But if you can have a genuine approach to wanting to help your customer get an outcome, it definitely helps. South Australia, is a great place to work. It's not necessarily the biggest town in the world, so it's probably one of the other things as well as building relationships.
Yeah.
That attaching to the genuine comment. People know if know in Adelaide if you've burnt some bridges with other customers or you haven't looked after people properly, it does get around. So being consistent and genuine in your approach. I'm working with people now that I used to compete with. Some of my customers are people that I used to work for. But one of my customers, education, he was my boss in my IT traineeship.
Wow.
All those back in 2004. So it is important to carry yourself with your integrity and have an honest, genuine approach to what you do. Certainly helps with it, and that's across the board. It's not just in IT as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. It is developing those soft skills. Confidence in communication, not being afraid to ask the question. Try not to idolize or put people on a pedestal that are just at the end of the day the same as you. People trying to achieve their own career objectives and deliver results to their business. And then of course the irrespective of the size of your market or your community, it's doing right by the customer, doing right by your colleagues, because as you said, was that 12 years down the track, you end up working with, a client of yours ended up being your previous employer. So it is, an age old kind of saying, it's karma in some sense. Just applying those kind of standard, good communication skills and being honorable in your role, that'll get you quite far.
Probably one other thing to add to that as well is it's another great way to progress your career is if you show that you do good work and that you care and care about learning and care about doing a good job, it does help you when you're trying to go for another role. It's quite common for you to be interviewed by someone when you're going for a job that you've worked with before. So having those recommendations and also that relationship building I spoke about before, having people help recommend you into jobs, the networking within Adelaide is really important. So all of it ties back to making sure you're doing a good job with the role you have in front of you. Some people might look at an entry-level job and think, oh, this isn't worth a lot, but how you carry yourself and how you work, no matter what role it is. I started at Macca's when I was in high school. How you work in any job certainly does dictate what your career path will be later on.
That's another great point. And it's that kind of idea of don't overestimate what you can achieve in, first 5 years after school. And more importantly, don't underestimate what you can achieve in the 10 years after school. So you yourself went from working for Macca's, then 17 years later, you're working in quite a senior position in an IT industry where you love and and you've developed great connections and great relationships across the business. So it's possible. There's plenty that can come with it. That's a bit of hard work and a few right decisions. So thinking about the attributes that you possess and what helped you get to where you are today, are there any particular areas, be it soft skills, be it what you've mentioned about forming relationships and networking and sometimes asking less questions and listening more often? Are there any other kind of advice, or be it how to get into the industry or how to do well in the industry for these young individuals looking to crack into the IT industry?
So in terms of getting started in a career, having a look at, I think one of the things for me in high school was we always felt like you either went to university or you got a trade, and that was the two options. And I wasn't aware of other options for that. If you wanted to go into an IT career, if it was either studying or go elsewhere. And it actually wasn't until I did the work experience within the courts that I knew about the IT traineeship. They took on 2 trainees every year. So I got to work with some trainees that were there at the time. So I'd really encourage anyone who's not sure where to go to have a look into what, even talking to your career counsellors at school about what other opportunities may be in terms of traineeships. The government still offer IT, not just IT, they offer traineeships across the board in lots of different industries. That's a great way to get started. Certainly from our perspective at Data3, we're working with the department at the moment to build a traineeship for school leavers to come and work for us because we need to develop our own IT talent, and we've got roles coming as we grow. There's lots of other companies as well that are doing exactly the same thing. So there's opportunities out there. If you don't know, if you don't want to go to university, or you might just want to see if you like the industry, there's lots of different options for traineeships I would highly encourage people to be diverse with their work experience. Sometimes that gets left a little bit too late. When you get to year 10, you don't know what you want to do, and you end up working for at your uncle's mechanic shop for a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to sort of look around and see what other things you can see in the industry, in different industries you might be interested in. But yeah, there's definitely career pathways outside of university. Certainly not saying that uni's not a good way to go as well. Many of my colleagues and people that I work with have gone back and studied afterwards, since starting in IT jobs too. So there's lots of different pathways, and I definitely encourage any students out there, if you're not sure, just to spend some time exploring different ways to get into full-time work.
Great, awesome. So it's kind of start early, start thinking about potential areas and industries you want to get involved with, and get those work experience connections, which in the future could potentially, turn into jobs later down the track. It's thinking about those alternative education pathways. So not just university, but also those, Department for Education training courses that hopefully Data3 are connecting together shortly. So watch your space, and then also things through TAFE and other certificates. So good to know that there is, think outside the box and not the traditional route, because you're a clear example of someone that did that, and it's paid off really well. So awesome. Okay. Yeah. Well, Brad, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today, but it was actually brilliant to talk to you. It's great to kind of get an insight into the IT industry, which I think traditionally is quite no one knows a lot about it. It's usually kind of behind the scenes, and we all use it every day. It's so important. It's one of the fastest growing industries we have in the country, if not the world. And it's great to know that there are so many different avenues available for a career. Working, and you can work in the technical side and also transition to the front of house sales side without much trouble. And I imagine vis-a-vis, you can work in the administration front end side and technically work way back. So it's good to know that it's a fluid industry, and it's a skill set that you can take no matter where you want in the world or in the country. So thanks again for your time. And of course, thank you to Data3 for providing us this opportunity. It's been brilliant. And thanks so much, Brad.
No worries, Harry. Thanks for having me.